Games are an incredibly subjective form of entertainment. I would say more so than music and films, because the way you play games is completely different depending on the person, which means there are a lot of differing opinions out there. Like, for example, you could be told that a game is completely life-changing and incredible, and then you play it yourself and you're like, this is really boring. There are a lot of games though that are objectively good, that a lot of people universally agree are just Game of the Year contenders. You know, you got your Expedition 33s, your Elden Rings, you know that stuff. The stuff you'll see Jeff Keighley talk about right after he's bummed Kojima backstage. But there are a lot of games out there that are universally pretty panned that I kinda like, and I want to talk about a few of them because I don't entirely understand why some of these games get the hate they do. And the first one I want to talk about is The Evil Within. Of course I'm going to talk about The Evil Within. If you know my main channel, you know this is like my favorite horror game ever made. It got a 68 on Metacritic. Okay. I mean, the game launched with quite a lot of issues, especially the PC port. It was locked at 30 FPS, and there was this horrific letterboxing you just couldn't turn off, no matter what. I think you had to mod the game at the time to get rid of it. It was a pretty bad PC port. It's still a pretty bad PC port, I can't lie, but I don't know, man. This is the game that got me into the horror genre. There's something about The Evil Within that's just unmatched, and I feel like if it was released today, more people would be talking about it. More people would be liking it. The Evil Within is a game where you're in some simulation called STEM, and it's hosted by the mind of a psychotic killer who was injured in a fire, so all the enemies are weak to fire, and because he's a psychopathic killer, he thinks of the most horrific abominations imaginable. And I'm talking Silent Hill levels of abomination, not Resident Evil. Resident Evil has nothing on The Evil Within when it comes to the enemy design. Honestly, there's not been a Resident Evil that's managed to match The Evil Within for me. I love games like Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil 7, but there's something about The Evil Within, it just comes out on top. And I know there's a few flaws with like the gameplay itself, like it can be janky at times, it's incredibly punishing, which a lot of people had issues with at the time. Like, this game, it will knock you down, spit on you, and then piss on your corpse. It is not afraid to just ruin your day, but I think that enhances the horror. You never feel safe in any combat encounter, and that's how survival horror should be, you know? You shouldn't be overpowering these enemies. I mean, in New Game Plus you do, you get like an RPG and shit, but like that's New Game Plus. On your first playthrough, every combat encounter should feel like you're barely escaping by the skin of your teeth, and The Evil Within manages to do that. That feeling of the game doesn't want you there, you don't feel welcome here in this hostile world, amplifies the horror tenfold. It is an incredible experience. Yeah, it can be a bit jank at times, and there are some moments where it can be unfair, but I beat this game on a Kumu difficulty. You know, it's peak. My favorite horror game, still unmatched. I want The Evil Within free, and the fact we'll never get one brings me so much rage too. Rage 2 walked so Doom Eternal could run. Let me explain myself here. So id Software collabed with Avalanche Studios, you know, the guys behind Just Cause, to make a sequel to Rage that was pretty universally seen as an underwhelming, boring mess. And you know what, that's one of the cases where I agree with that statement. I do not like the original Rage. Rage 2, on the other hand, it is just, it's not even a sequel to Rage at this point. Like, it is a completely different game. It's not this boring, grey, deserted, apocalyptic wasteland. Okay, I do kind of like the aesthetic of Rage 1, it's just incredibly boring to play. But Rage 2, well, you can tell id Software worked on the gunplay for Rage 2, and they were working on Doom Eternal at the time, because there are so many similar elements that Rage 2 has to Doom Eternal, like a dash, well, not really the double jump was in Doom 2016, but you get my point. Like, this game has visceral gunplay, visceral combat encounters. I don't think I've heard guns sound this good in any other first-person shooter game, and I don't get why no one talks about Rage 2. But I do kind of get it's the open world. It's the part Avalanche worked on. The open world sucks. It's just nothing. There's nothing there. The most fun you can have in the open world is seeing the main character ragdoll when he gets hit by a car. And yeah, there's also driving in the game. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think like vehicles and like any form of like transportation like that is a sign that your open world is just too barren and there's not much in between interesting things. I feel like it's used as a crutch a lot of the time because some of the best open worlds just don't have vehicles at all, like Dying Light 2. Now hear me out. I really like Dying Light 2. I've always really liked Dying Light 2. Even at launch, I really liked Dying Light 2, and that, looking back, I don't know why I liked launch Dying Light 2. It was not in the best state, but like parkour, man, it is so good. And the fact they've just been improving it with every update. I have an old video going over the parkour update that I'm not gonna plug here because it's kind of a shit video, but like Dying Light 2 is, I don't know, like I get the story isn't great, but like Dying Light 1 didn't have a good story either. I don't get why people are making out that Dying Light 1 has this impeccable narrative now and Kyle Crane is this awesome main character. When Dying Light 1 came out, everyone shat on that game's story. Everyone shat on Kyle Crane. He was called generic, he was called boring, everything you could think of, every insult you could think of under the sun, Kyle Crane was called it. But then Dying Light 2 came out and everyone just did a full 180 and was like, oh, this game sucks. Dying Light 1 had a really good story. No, who's playing Dying Light for the story? Dying Light 2's story is dog shit, but who fucking cares? Because the gameplay is so fun. The combat is an improvement. I know that's a hot take for some reason, even though like there's way more you can do with the combat in Dying Light 2 compared to the first, and the parkour especially. If anyone tells you the parkour in Dying Light 1 is better than 2, they're just lying. They're just straight up blinded by nostalgia. Or they haven't played Dying Light 2, because like Dying Light 2's parkour is just next level. I could spend hours just running around Villador doing absolutely fuck all, just pulling off cool parkour moves just for the sake of it. It is just such a fun game. The entire thing's co-op, and yeah, I think it's better than Dying Light 1. Dying Light the Beast, on the other hand, I think is the best of both worlds situation, and I think that is way better received than Dying Light 2, so it doesn't count in this video. Now the last game I want to talk about is it's a bit of a strange one, because unlike Metacritic, it is all in the green, even the user scores in the green, but you wouldn't know that if you looked online and saw people's opinions on it. I'm talking about Final Fantasy 16, a game that people consider the worst Final Fantasy just in the entire series, and I have the complete polar opposite opinion on this. I think it's the best in the series. I think it's so good. Yeah, there's a lot of boring side quests, but like most games have most RPGs have boring side quests. Like not every game is The Witcher 3 when it comes to the side quests. I don't get why Final Fantasy 16 got so much flack for this. But like, Final Fantasy 16 has some of the best moments I've experienced in any game ever, and I don't even want to show you any of it. It's just pure spoilers. You just got to play Final Fantasy 16. People consider this a mid game. They're crazy. The combat's insanely good as well. It's by the Devil May Cry 5 guy. That's all you need to know, really. Yeah, there's some games that are considered mid that I personally really like. Some of them are in my top 5 games of all time, and by that I mean The Evil Within is in my top 5 games of all time. I hope we get a third game. You should check out my big video on The Evil Within on my channel. Still very proud of that one, and yeah, thank you all for sticking around for another Proxidist Plus video. I'll see you all in the next one.